Let's break the decks down. So do you want to start with yours first?
Sure. So again, I decked myself, but I was dead. The decking didn't actually kill me.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was sweet.
It did a lot of cool stuff, man. Do you think it
Right.
needs You still think it needs a better threat? Like you never did play Elephant Rider.
I was gonna play it the following turn after attack. I felt like I had to send my River Scald into your guy as my first action.
Sure, because you knew I could just recur an Immortal Commander and kill the Scald. So
Well, yeah. I mean, you didn't have to. I just didn't want you to attack with 5-power guy.
sure,
I wanted to trade the Scald for the thing. Though I think honestly that might have been a bad play because I think you had the Sacred Ground in play, so you could have just saved your guy.
yeah, I could have armored up for just an exhaustion on the Sacred Ground.
Yeah, so that was probably a bad play. I probably should have just played Elephant Rider.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't have mattered because you would have had the 3 damage thing in hand, and I didn't have any cards left to put under Jericho.
Right.
To heal it past that.
Because you have to prepare from the deck, right? You can't prepare from hand.
Right.
Yeah.
So I had exactly 5 cards in hand, so I could have if I used her ability on the prepare step, I would have had to draw and died.
Mm-hmm.
Because I would have gone to 4 cards in hand, no cards in pile. And there was no way that I was getting to 3 cards under her without taking a damage.
Sure.
That turn. So it didn't really matter. The game was over when she was at 12 damage.
Right.
So maybe I'm not supposed to give you the exhauster thing, but I think just any random dude does the same thing. This deck needs not a big threat, but an answer to bigger threats.
Let's turn it for
okay, yeah.
So the folks can see it.
I'm trying to lay out the things, but it's...
So, I mean, I've always been what I would call a mid-range tempo player. That's the kind of deck I prefer to play. And, I mean, I think that's why I like Divine so much, is because it feels very much like playing a mid-range tempo deck.
I mean, you just have guys. That was a super Timmy deck, right?
Right.
Just men.
Yeah.
And maybe that's how this game is supposed to be. I think probably I made a lot of should I attack, shouldn't I attack kind of mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Because it even felt as soon as you made the Majestic Titan, I didn't even want to play guys.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to wait until after your Majestic Titan was exhausted to even play guys.
But I can just sit back and wait on that too.
Right, which is the inherent problem with the old combat system,
Sure.
that we've talked about in the past. So here's the pile, and this will always go here.
Let's do your. What is your starting 5 for most matchups? I think that's something that's unique to this game that we should discuss.
Cricket.
Okay.
Prepare.
Mm-hmm.
Resonance.
Mm-hmm.
Double Edge.
Okay.
And one of these two.
Sleight of hand or changing winds?
Right.
Yep, okay. What would make you decide one or the other? Do you have any idea on that?
I started with this one in game 1.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't good. It was really variable because in game 1, I didn't even play this card.
Sure.
Even though I started with it in my 5, because I drew off the Double Edge a lot of card advantage. I didn't need the additional cards.
Right.
In game 2, because of that, I tried starting Changing Winds. And then I ran out of gas.
Yeah.
So I think it's really hard for me not to put the Double Edge in hand because it's so good, and it's so good with Cricket.
Mm-hmm.
That the opening 5 is important, but the top 3 or 4 cards of your pile are really important too. But there's no way to know that, obviously. So
Mm-hmm.
I think playing it, I would do this more often.
See, I think my takeaway with Illusion, just my takeaway, how I would play your deck from what I saw, I'd probably put Elephant Rider down turn 1 because you have hidden power to recur 2 dice back in the pool and keep your turn going. And
I mean, if I'm doing that, that's essentially the only thing I'm doing that turn.
yeah, but I mean, a turn 1 Elephant Rider has got to be really hard for your opponent to deal with, right?
I don't know. Is it like?
I don't know.
It seems like if I just slam Elephant Rider, I'm gonna get eaten up by like just attacking the Elephant Rider.
Maybe. Yeah, I mean that's possible.
Like I'm playing one of this because essentially I know I'm gonna see my whole pile every game. And I want this to be like a turn 3 play. Like I want this to end the game.
Sure.
I don't want it to start the game. I want to like card advantage you out and then end the game.
And then I think you probably need to do something. I mean, I think cricket is great, and I think it's got a lot of value for you. But I think that you have to consider maybe like a Battle Seer or something. I think you have to have a reasonable threat to put down on the board.
And in both games, I had a Scald or a Battle Seer to play in the first turn, just from drawing so many cards into my pile.
And the good news is most of that stuff is mostly free for you, right? Like,
right. That's why the like these things are so good because look at my like actual dice cost on these cards. 0, 0. Well, this actually costs 1 because you like put it into play off the discard.
Right.
This costs 1 because it gets you 2 back after paying 3. This is free. This is 2. So you end up spending 1, 3 if you make a cricket. 5, 6. Like so you still have 4 dice left over with this that you can use those extra cards off of because obviously there's just like draw 2, draw 3,
right,
or like get 1 back with cricket. And I only on turn 1 of game 2 when I didn't have this did I feel like I had gas but nothing to do with it.
Okay.
In the other games I was playing out, a bunch of stuff. And like activating both crickets and playing the other cricket feels so good.
Yeah.
Because you like make 2 2-1s and put another permanent in play.
And they're good conjurations because even if your opponent wraths them, like you still get some value out of them. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And like it's another way to get a little value out of the double edge because you're discarding the double edge, so you just want cards in hand regardless of what they are. So if you give me a bad card and I discard it to double edge, it's still a good card.
Right.
And the ability to make 2 of them at a time with her large, like she has a large battlefield, so you'll never fill up. I wish there were more, but I don't know. Like maybe you'd never get to 5, but I think with the new combat rules, this guy would be a lot better.
Okay.
Because
in what way? Because we were still. I mean, weren't we basically playing with new combat rules tonight?
There was one time when I attacked and you didn't counter.
Okay.
So like when you're forced to counter and so like
but
if you have a large threat and I just like chunk this guy into it and you're forced to exhaust him, that's like.
But I don't think that happens in Reborn, right? Isn't it only forced to counter if you guard?
Oh, maybe that's right.
Where it used to be you could guard and not counter. Now you're only forced to counter if you guard.
Maybe that's right.
Yeah. So I don't think we played anything wrong on the Reborn combat rules tonight.
Well, in any case, I think this is a fine guy.
I think so too.
He doesn't. Like if he had 1 more power, it'd be insane.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know if I'm supposed to be playing something that does that, but
well, as much card draw as you have, I could see in power with crickets being really, really good.
He feels like it's just like so much card advantage. But again, this was like all the other decks I built where like it doesn't quite get there on the damage because even though I'm making multiple guys or whatever, I like if I make two crickets in 1 activation, theoretically, they should trade for your like Immortal Commander. Well, one of them trades for Immortal Commander, or two of them trade for Holy Knight. But as soon as you have like one thing, then I just get blown out.
Right. Yeah. So let's go through the deck card by card just so people know what's in here. So we've done the starting 5.
So I had these laid out like this to show the like
how it all
right. So here's the one ofs. The Resonance is a one of, but I put it in the prepare pile because that's the card that I plan on resonating.
Yep. So let's just go. You got 3 double edge, which is the loyalty card for Jericho.
Obviously insane.
Yeah.
Not much to say there.
Nope.
Super
so
good.
2 prepare with Resonance making your focus copy of prepare.
Yeah, it's possible that I should just be playing a 3rd prepare because getting more cards under Jericho is very important.
And it basically doesn't cost you any dice. This is costing you 1, whereas 3rd copy of prepare wouldn't cost you the dice.
Right. This is that would essentially be trading like speed for value,
right?
Because prepare as a main action is like feels kind of bad.
Sure.
But as soon as you focus as a side action, it feels a lot better.
Right.
But maybe having 3 of them is just correct, and I shouldn't have a Resonance in the deck.
Well, you get focus off of the Night Song Crickets though too, right? So or is it Night Song Cricket? Yeah,
Night Song Cricket. I want to have all 3 Night Song Crickets in play, just because I want to be able to make. They're cheap.
Yep.
And they come out fast, so like I want to be able to make all the crickets I can.
Sure.
Because this deck is very dice efficient. On top of like having low cost and everything except the single Elephant Rider, it has like the dice recursion stuff.
I like the River Scald a lot. I think it's very powerful in a deck that's going to draw a lot of cards. It's obviously insane.
I really wanted to try it. And since this deck has like a million extra draws, it's a 3/3/2, and it costs 3. Like we talk about, there's a million 3/3s for 3.
Right.
This is just like the horsepower version of it. And you're right, he seems powerful because like essentially he, on top of just being a 3/3/2, which is fine, and does everything every other 3/3/2 does, he has the potential to like attack and you choose not to get countered.
Exactly. Yeah, I think he's really solid.
He seems cool.
When I play in our games, our 2 games, which is obviously not a large pool, we're not preparing for a tournament or anything. He was the threat I was most concerned with when you played him. I was like, oh, I got to worry about that guy because he just has this innate ability to kind of snipe anything off my board just through the way you want to play your deck, which makes it really good.
Right. I mean, for me, this guy and Battleseer are essentially the same card.
Sure.
They're both just like
they're 3/3s for
my reasonable guy that I can play more than one of in a round, and have attackers / blockers.
So you've got River Scald as a 3 of, Battleseer as a 3 of, Gates Thrown Open as a 3 of. How do you feel about Gates?
In this deck, I thought it was fine because the turn that I played both, like 2 of them, I actually still used all my dice,
right?
Except for 2 or something,
right? I think you had 2 at the end of that round,
right? So if I was in a situation where I drew 1 and didn't need it, then I would maybe consider like going down on them. But I think that this deck, because it draws so many cards, like has the potential just to use all its dice, regardless of how many extras you make. And I wasn't sure what I wanted my last spellboard slot to be after this, and this. So I know this is a powerful card. That's what I played. But maybe it should be an additional summon of some kind. Like I could play summon Shadow Spirit or summon Ancestral Spirit or summon Draw a Card Horse. I don't remember the name of that one. Something.
Squall Stallion?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Squall Stallion, we talked a little bit about last time, I'm kind of down on it after reading it again because it's only a 3 power guy on your turn.
Right.
you can't block with it as a 3-power guy unless
Correct.
you jump through a bunch of hoops.
Right.
So that made me feel less good about it. But it is cheap, and it draws a card to trigger itself or trigger Rivered Scald. So maybe that's what it should be.
I think that correct me if I'm wrong, but the single card draw with River Scald in play, you're going to trigger both of those things. Like one card's going to trigger both of them, right?
The first horse doesn't trigger the first horse.
No,
but right, like
first horse would still trigger Scald though.
Correct. Yeah. And any number of like draw card things would trigger off the thing. So I mean, the combo with this guy is obviously Double Edge or Changing Winds because they're side actions. So you can play main action, side action, and trigger,
and use them, right?
Which I never did, unfortunately, in any of the games we played. But that was the idea.
Sure. So you got the 3 new ideas. Just
I got 3 hidden powers.
3 hidden powers. Yep.
The new idea specifically, this deck has many sources of discard. Mm-hmm. So having the
discard,
like free discard.
Yep. I like the new idea in this deck a lot.
Right, it's super good. It's good with the crickets. It's good with the double edge.
Yep.
It's good with this thing.
Yep, the shared sorrow. Yep. And
the shared sorrow might be too cute. It might not be impactful enough.
So when I was looking on one of your crickets, you had a shared sorrow on your deck, and I didn't know your mana cost to know how powerful shared sorrow could be for you. But obviously, I knew you had an elephant rider, so I'm like, that's way overkill, obviously. But I mean, I think you can target my Phoenixborn with it, right? No, just X damage to you.
Yeah.
Okay. So I knew you wouldn't do that, but I didn't know how many 3 powers you would have. And 3 power was kind of that break point for things like my Majestic Titan. And
right. It's there as like you saw me do it, right? Like I did it for 1, but it's extra value because I either get to do it the fair way where I discard a Scald to get a Battle Seer or whatever and do 3. And then it's okay. But if I do it the unfair way where I discard a cricket or a new ideas, even though it does less damage, it's immense value.
Right.
Because
cricket is 0. It's actual 0, right?
Right, but the one turn I did it for cricket, I discarded cricket to get a double edge.
Sure.
And then used double edge as my side action and just went off, right? Like I did a million things that turn.
Right.
Because when you discard the cricket to it, you get to put it into play. Right. Like you're not discarding a card. You can discard the one game I did it. I discarded new ideas to get back a hidden power and draw a card. Like do 1 damage. You know, it adds up to be a very good effect when you combine it with the other things.
I agree.
But this was like the last card I added.
Okay.
Because I had 2 slots and I'm like, all right, let's try this. I don't know if it's impactful enough. Because again, I took so many more game actions than you. Yeah. So many.
There was just a turn I think where I passed 5 times in a row, right? Because it was just pass.
And that is the situation where I want the elephant rider. And I know it's hard to set up where that would happen and I'd still have 7 dice, but I don't think it's impossible. And even if you didn't pass 5 times, if I spent my last 5 dice worth of cards or whatever on an elephant rider, that's when I want the elephant rider.
Right.
Just to shore up the game.
Right.
But we never really got to that point. Your guys are just bigger than mine, and the crickets, because of the Majestic Titan specifically was extra good against the crickets.
Yeah.
Because even though I can make them 2 at a time, you can kill them 2 at a time.
Right. I'm really curious to continue to explore the Titan because I think he might
It is interesting. The reason that I was shying away from him is because he was so expensive. Because it costs to play the book,
right? And
then he costs 3, but since he only costs 2 charm dice,
I think as long as you're playing charm, he's really, really good.
Right. It unfortunately makes you play charm.
Yeah, that's true.